Okay, everybody, here we go. This is my newest segment of Markets to Look Ahead. It is January 8th, 2023. People, let's talk. Let's just sit back and take all of this in. What an epic turn of events over the last several trading days. This past Friday, unbelievable. We watched a phenomenon occur, people. We had the US dollar literally crater. We had the 10-year yield full off a freaking cliff. The MMRI nosedive. And who's doing this? Is this the average investor here? Is this even institutional investors? No, no, no. It's central banks hell freaking bent to prop up the system even more so, and create even more magnificent, if I can use that word, distortions across the spectrum of asset classes. And look, I'm laughing, and you should be laughing too. None of this is real. It's all just some kind of mechanism here to distort reality into something that it was never meant to be in any way, shape, or form. It's an astonishing thing. You know, let's back up a little bit and let's look backward beyond last Friday. What were we witnessing, you and I? We were seeing yet again clear signs, to me at least, and I'm sure you, if you follow this blog, you know what's going on, of instability here in the debt market, and understanding that the debt market, again, is the driver of everything. Every single asset that you can think of derives value from what is occurring in the debt market. It's funny to me. I flip through the freaking mainstream propaganda ministries every single day. I'm rotating through Fox Business, Bloomberg, CNBC, and all they do is have you focus on the stock market, on the stock market, on the stock market, and never, 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 really almost never. First of all, they never explain to you how the stock market itself, the stock markets of the world, derive value from what's happening in the debt markets. Why do you think, just for a second, let's just focus on a little secret maybe you're not supposed to know. Why do you think, for example, central banks around the world have chosen to get in here and rig the entire global debt market by buying it all? And we haven't seen anything yet. That's been my kind of theme for an extremely long period of time, probably almost since I started, was central banks are determined to buy it all. Buy all of the debt to become the lenders and buyers of last resort. And all central banks are doing here is manipulating the entire financial system for their benefit here. And how for their benefit? Because the more a central bank is allowed to inflate, the stronger they become. You all know that. The illusion that this is happening, the illusion that that is happening, the complete falsehood about how raising rates is going to eventually, someday in the future, bring down inflation. It's not true. It's just meant to kill demand. And how do you kill demand? By basically killing the consumer. So as I have said recently, there is clearly, and it's in our face, a war. The Federal Reserve and central banks around the world have clearly declared all out, no holds barred war on the middle class. Who's still doing phenomenal here? The 1% and 2%ers. Everybody else is getting completely wiped out. The people at the lower rung, they're done already. They're done already. I've been telling you this, and it doesn't matter because they're already slaves to the system. They're already getting their checks. And they're being supported by the system itself. So what's going on here clearly, as you and I are very keenly aware, is it's a terrible thing to see the middle class being wiped out, pushed to that lower rung of society, more slaves to the system here. And this mechanism is going to get a lot greater moving forward. Let's think together for a moment here. Do you believe, and I wanted you to post here, do you believe that there is even the slightest chance on the planet Earth, off the Earth, or anywhere else, that pressure from central banks is going to let up here? Do you believe that we are actually eventually, and I don't know when, How about sometime in the near future, we're going to see some relief for the middle class with regard to having to deal with inflating prices? The answer is no, clearly. And central banks are going out of their way to make sure that this process continues. And the process of inflating the debt via any mechanism they can. We have this, I don't know about you, even just this morning, I'm flipping through some of the channels and it's the new variant. It's very dangerous. Stay afraid. Remember, fear as a weapon. The entire system has been weaponized. You all know that. But you see, when you see a tactic like that, it just, to me at least, it solidifies the fact that you and I are doing the right thing, understanding that we need to obviously raise our awareness and to take advantage of the situation. Is we're never going to deviate. Like I tell you every freaking day, bet against the debt, become your own central bank, hold hard assets, physical gold, physical silver, my favorite asset of all time, platinum, palladium as well. Commodities eventually are going to skyrocket, understanding how this is playing out. Okay, the hyper debt bubble is going to burst. You all know this. It's going to melt down global stock markets. Cash is going to move into commodities. Okay, so I think you need to look into these things. As most of you know, I did put a list of 5 exchange traded funds you might want to look at. There's others too, which I've spoken about in the past, PDBC. But anyway, if you've subscribed to my free newsletter, you get all this right in your inbox. Link in the description of this video. So I was just writing down a few things here. The situation is very much in our face here, and I want to bring something else to your attention here. What do we know is going on? What is the Federal Reserve and other central banks? What are they doing here? What are they involved in? This scheme of passing trillions of dollars between institutions overnight. It's called a repo. The Federal Reserve's repo operation. The Federal Reserve, let's look at these guys for just a second. The Federal Reserve repo operation has reached $2.5 trillion every single night. Now, everyone's up in arms about this $1.7 trillion spending bill. Why is no one even talking about the fact, except you and I, that every single night the Federal Reserve is passing way more than that between institutions overnight? Think about it. 2.5 trillion, 2.5 trillion, 2.5 trillion, soon to be 3 trillion, soon to be 3.5 trillion, soon to be 4 trillion. And what is this all about? What is this mechanism here all about? Again, it's tricking the system. It's fooling the system. That's all it's meant to do, into believing that it's more liquid than it actually is. The liquidity is drying up here. Okay, it should be obvious to you. Without the relentless, and it can't stop, it must grow exponentially, hyper liquefying the system by expanding wars, warp speed vaccines, new variants which are going to require more therapy here, multi-trillion-dollar spending packages, stopgap measures to fund the government. Without this, the system, we go back to Mad Max, the whole system implodes. So with regard to the Federal Reserve's repo operation, and you knew this way before we just hit 2.5 trillion here per night, I explained right here, we talked about it, that this would grow. It has to grow. So the repo operation, this is a scam. It's a scam to trick the system, because liquidity, as I said, is drying up, and the system demands that liquidity constantly be put into it. This is why, again, we can't have a budget here in the United States. We're the laughing stock of the world. We have to have stopgap measures to fund, because this must be expanded on. Do you not think that every single one of our politicians isn't aware of this? Why are they not telling you that? Why have you not heard one single politician say, listen, everybody, the reason why we have to have stopgap measures to fund the government is because we need to allow the Fed to inflate? Every day, the Federal Reserve inflates further, or central banks inflate further. What happens? They get stronger. What are they doing? What are central banks doing? What have they started 100 years ago, and we're right here now, to fulfill their end game, to own it all? You know all this, and I believe moving forward, we're going to see this get even greater with the repo operation, with more cash being pulled into the now off-balance sheet Federal Reserve and central bank operations, which you have We, you, me, the President of the United States, doesn't matter who you are not allowed to see. Because central banks, you see, they have no oversight. They can do anything they want at any moment here. Where do you think all the cash is coming from to fund this new war that you and I are bankrolling? Okay, are you going to see that on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet? Because we don't have the cash. When President Mummy Man Bidenstein, imbecile, chalks up another reason to expand the war, send more weapon systems over there, more cash. I wonder how much of it's actually getting to Ukraine. That cash must be created mysteriously and magically and then sent over there. We don't have it. We're broke. It's from the Fed. It's from central banks. But you don't see that on the balance sheet. You understand? This is off balance sheet stuff. All of it is. Anyway, so we have this new effective variant, okay, and they're quickly developing a new one of these guys. I got to be careful what I say here, and you're going to be funding that as well. I think you all know that. What else did we find last week? Factory activity falling, manufacturing falling, service sector off of a cliff here. Real estate, I mean, it's over. You and I have been talking about this, and none of this is a surprise to you. When we hear this stuff, we just know, okay, we knew about this ahead of time. And this is going to get much, much worse moving forward. The cratering of the global economy is going to accelerate. It has to. Central banks are going to continue to play their games here, raising rates. They're going to probably pause at one point here. Doesn't matter. They already got the ball rolling here. And they can't stop. There's one way they could stop this. All right. Let me clarify what I'm about to say. I have said, we have discussed here for many, many, many years, that all this money creation out of thin air, okay, has created a situation where bills and whatever currency in whatever form it exists is floating around the world, is now chasing the same or a lesser amount of goods, and this is economics 101. You get inflation here. So this mechanism here, it can't be stopped. The only way and raising rates certainly isn't going to do it. They would have to contract the money supply, but there's not a peep. Not a word, not a syllable, nothing about this from the mainstream propaganda, because you can't know that. They have to tell you to look here. Don't look over there. So the fact of the matter is, yes, there is a way to stop this, but it will not be instituted, because the moment a central bank calls on financial institutions or forces them to hold more capital and reserves, then they cannot fulfill their end game, which is to continue to inflate. And that's it. It's interesting to me yet again how the only one solution that's being sold to you and me, the people of the world, via the mainstream propaganda who are just reading a script, is, oh, they have to raise rates. And now the IMF just jumped on board with that. How interesting is that? The IMF, who came out saying just a couple of months ago that what central banks are doing is very dangerous for the world economy by raising rates like this, now they're saying, oh no, it has to be done. It has to be done. Do you see? It's a game. It's all a game. It's a twisted game, people. So the key, what is the key to looking forward here? You and I already know it. It's the debt market. The MMRI is now at 229. If we drop 29 points, we go from high risk to moderate risk. We know where the red line in the sand was at 300 with regard to the MMRI. It now seems it's at 250. It seems to me like they're determined to push that lower. If they don't, and we get a spike here in the MMRI, I did a whole video about this. I showed you a chart. Then this whole thing just ends, and I mean fast. But it appears to me the action that we witnessed here in the debt market just on Friday alone over the last several days has been unbelievable. Who's buying all the debt? Well, you tell me. It should be obvious. It's central banks, and I don't think they're done. They're going to continue to inflate the system until they have more slaves to it. And when they've consolidated the situation here, when they have 99% of the world by the throat, which they're pretty close to it right now, forcing them to be dependent on the system, then they'll pull the plug, and then we'll get a whole entirely new twisted system that is just going to change everything. And this is going to be it's going to be epic. It really, really is. All right, look, that's it, people. Pretty long video. I want to hear from you. Please comment. Let me know what you think about these things. Like I said, this MMRI, if, let me just touch on this real quick, because there seems to be confusion. This is not a risk. This is only a risk indicator in real time. It's not a crash indicator. It's not even a forward-looking indicator. It measures market risk in real time. That's what it does. And you can see how this responded on Friday. It fell off a cliff and the stock market just took off. So it's interesting to watch how it plays out. Now, if we, like I said, drop below, if we lose 30 points with the MMRI and we drop into a yellow zone, the stock market's going to go crazy. And it's going to go much, much higher here. And central banks, what that would mean is central banks are buying even more debt. And they're going to have to. They're going to inflate their repo operation. They're going to increase their debt and asset purchases. There's just no doubt about it. But don't you dare call it quantitative easing. But that's exactly what's going on. And I think we're all pretty much aware of it. Meanwhile, they're playing their rate hike game at the same time. It's just so twisted. This guy here loves you a lot. Please comment. Please share the video. Well, see you in the morning.